Hey guys, welcome to Nerdarchy. For nerds, by nerds. I'm Nerdarchist Ryan, and today we're going to go over making your very first Dungeons & Dragons character in 4 easy steps. I want to start off by thanking Easy Roller Dice for sponsoring this series. You can go to easyrollerdice.com/nerdarchy, and rumor has it if you check the description below, you can even get a coupon code to save 20% off your purchase. So today we're going to look at building our very first character. We had mentioned in the ability score video the idea of Reinhardt the human paladin. So let's go ahead and have a look at how we'd build that character. Step 1. You need to choose what race do you want to play in a fantasy role-playing game. As this is our first character, let's go with something that's fairly relatable to pretty much 99.99999% of us. So let's just go with human. I'm a human, you're a human. We can kind of relate to what being a human is. So as we dip our big toe into the waters of role-playing games, let's go with something semi-familiar. If you open up your player's handbook to page 29, you can see the human traits. So these are all the things you're going to think about when you start to put your character together on your character sheet. So you'll see that you get a +1 to all your ability scores. You have a speed of 30 feet, which will come into play in things like combat or other tense situations. Your medium size, which just means your average size of a humanoid-esque sized thing, because there's large things like ogres, or even larger things like certain varieties of giants or dragons. You're gonna speak common and you get to choose one other language, so we'll kind of think about that and know that we have one open language spot to play with. Okay, step 1, already done. We've chose a human and we know what we get from that, so easy enough, right? So now we can go to page 83 of the player's handbook and look at a paladin. So a first level paladin, since we've already decided that's the class we're going to go with, so we can see on this chart here that they get a +2 proficiency bonus, which we can talk about that later. It's going to apply to a lot of things that you are proficient in, but you can see that they get that +2, and then under features, which there's a features section of your character sheet where you can jot these down, you get Divine Sense, Unlay in Hands, and as of yet you don't have any spells to worry about, but come second level you'll get some spell slots to do things with. So Divine Sense is really just noticing. It's an ability you have to activate, so it takes an action to do it, and it's noticing either celestials, undead, or fiendish creatures that are around within 60 feet. So the description in the book, it tells you that it can't go through walls or anything like that, but a few times a day, as laid out in the rules, you can have a sense of when there's something that's out of the ordinary around you if you activate this ability. Now, I would think that most of the time it's going to be visible, like you might clutch your holy symbol or make some warding gesture or something like that. So it probably looks a little weird when you do it. So maybe something to consider. You also have Lay on Hands, so that you have some healing magic you can use. You can heal up to 5 hit points of damage on yourself or an ally, and again, that's another thing that uses your action in the combat round. So sort of hand in hand with choosing your character class is step 3, determining your ability scores. Now we're going with a standard array, which gives you the even mix of being really good at some things, and you have a few things that you're kind of weak at or even bad at. So the quick build here suggests that we put our highest ability in strength and our second highest in charisma, which makes a lot of sense for this character build. So let's go ahead and just sort of round out our ability scores. So you'll see we put that 15 in strength, 10 in dexterity, 13 in constitution, 8 in intelligence, 12 in wisdom, and 14 in charisma. But because we're a human, all of these ability scores are going to be 1 higher, again, because the human gets a +1 to all ability scores. So we kind of interrupted step 2 with step 3 of the ability scores, because lots of things on your character sheet refer to your ability scores, so it's helpful to know what those are, so moving forward you go to fill out your character sheet. So we're going to look at our other paladin class features now that we have our ability scores figured out. Under hit points, you start with a d10, but as a first level paladin, you just get the maximum amount. And all first level characters, you get 10 hit points. And then from there, you also get to add your Constitution modifier. So having a 14 Constitution score gives you a Constitution modifier of a +2. So modifiers are from a 10, it's a +0, and every increment that your ability score is 2 better. So 10 is a +0, 12 a +1, 14 +2, and so on and so on. And inversely, 10 being a +0, 8 being a -1, and every time you go down a score, it's a negative modifier. So again, we get +2 from Constitution. That's going to give us 12 total hit points because of that 10 hit die. And every time you're going to gain levels, you will get more hit points. And you can either choose to take the average, which is a 6, or randomly roll a d10 and see what the die gives you as a result. I like to go with a safe bet of having 6 hit points plus my Constitution modifier, but if you want to take your chances and your Dungeon Master wants to allow people to go that way, then you're welcome to do that as well. Now, as far as proficiencies go, you're proficient with all armors and shields, so that's helpful. You can slather on the heavier armor you can get throughout the course of the game. Weapons, you get access to all simple weapons and martial weapons, so there's all kinds of cool weapons you can wield. You don't get any tools. You get saving throws of wisdom and charisma. Now, all these things that you're proficient in, if it's an active ability, like attacking or making a saving throw, you add your proficiency modifier, that +2 that you get for being proficient in a thing, and then plus the relevant ability score modifier. So our wisdom is a +1, our proficiency is a +2. You add those up, you get 3. So if we had to make a wisdom saving throw or related roll, we get to add that +3 to the d20 roll. Now we also have access to skills. We get to choose 2 from athletics, insight, intimidation, medicine, persuasion, and religion. So for this character, let's go with athletics and medicine. So we're kind of thinking maybe he's a soldier, perhaps like fighting for his church. So he has to do lots of physically enduring things. And also, too, if he's seen a lot of combat, being like a combat medic makes a lot of sense to be able to like dress wounds in the fray of things. Now our class also gives us some starting equipment. So we get some options here. We could either take 2 martial weapons, or we could also take a martial weapon and a shield. So if we opt for the 2 martial weapons, let's go with taking the maul and the greatsword. So we have just 2 different ways of dealing lots of damage. They're 2-handed weapons. You can't use a shield with them, but they do 2d6, which is just friggin' impressive. And also, you know, the Overwatch character is always depicted with that massive hammer. So let's just actually have a giant ass hammer. So we're gonna go down this list and take 5 javelins to have the ranged weapon option. We have the option here of taking a priest pack or an explorer's pack. I like the more rough and tumble idea of this character having an explorer's pack to make him feel more like a soldier, more of a grunt, you know. And our class also gives us chainmail armor, which if you look at page 145, that chart there, it tells you chainmail just gives you a 16 armor class. So we just know that that's our armor class. We don't have any dexterity modifiers. It's a heavy armor, so even if we had a positive dexterity modifier, it wouldn't apply, because heavy armors, you don't get your dexterity. Okay, so last but not least, we're going to figure out what background we want our character to have. So we have some rough ideas of what's going on. There's all kinds of backgrounds you can take. You could take sailor, or urchin, or sage. Simply enough, on page 140 in the background section, there's just a soldier background, so works perfectly for a character we were saying that we want to be a soldier. Now, we see the things that we get for taking the background, skill proficiencies, athletics and intimidation. Well, shoot, we already have athletics. We took that as a paladin. So you actually get to reselect something if it overlaps. So we could take insight. Maybe if we're dealing with a conflict with goblins, maybe he had to like read intentions of enemy troops and enemy forces. So insight would be a good way of him being able to figure out and intuit what is happening. And it's based off of wisdom, which we're pretty good at. So not a bad thing for a soldier to have. Now, we also pick up a tool proficiency of 1 type of gaming set and vehicles land, which again is the ability to ride horses or to to pilot a wagon, those sort of very basic modes of transport. It's not bad for a paladin to be able to ride on a horse. And for gaming sets, so there's things like dice or chess sets or cards. So later on in this, you'll see that they get some sort of a trophy taken from a fallen enemy. Maybe he had this really nice set of dragon bone carved dice set that he stole from a captain or a chief of some hobgoblins that he was fighting, and he carries them around as a lucky charm. Maybe like kisses them before he goes into battle for luck. So again, we've just created this little insight into the character, and well, I guess it means he's a little superstitious. Maybe he likes to gamble, because that's also showing signs of a character that believes in luck. So when we look into the equipment section, we have an insignia of rank, so some sort of badge or medal or something that just says that he was a part of this faction or legion. We've already addressed what that trophy could have been, and we've mixed the dice that he is able to use, he's good at using, with that element. So you also get some common clothes and a pouch of 10 gold pieces. So 10 gold pieces, you're spending money. So when your character goes to a tavern or wants to have lodging, they don't have to go hungry or sleep out on the streets. So always a good thing. Now, we get to choose a specialty. I think this character is more of an infantryman, so sort of fighting alongside of other troops, not really having a particularly high rank, more of like a common man sort of soldier. If you'd like to make this character different, you're welcome to make other choices. So this background gives us access to a military rank feature. So that's basically saying that if people acknowledge the authority of whatever group you are a part of, then you hold some sway with them. You can maybe get some lodging, access to a fortress that they hold, and that you just generally have a good rapport with them. Now, on the other hand, if there was an enemy faction of the army you're a part of, you might want to keep it on the down low, because unlike video games, characters in the world act how they should. Unlike video games, character in the world around you are organic and react to the conflicts that are inherent in the world. So if you were formerly fighting this faction that you've just encountered, they're not going to like you very much. So now we have these sections of suggested characteristics, which you can either go ahead and just pick ones that seem fit to build on the character as you see it, or you can randomly roll and just let the dice to determine your personality traits, ideal, bond, and flaw. So those things you can completely leave up to chance, or you can decide on and shape this character as you see it and as you start to imagine it in your head. And if you take up on any of these basic concepts, that's really the heart of role-playing, where you sort of internalize and think of who this character is and try to portray as reasonably as you can what that character is by your actions and how they project. Like, I won't go over all of these, but if you were to take the flaw number 4, my hatred of my enemies is blind and unreasoning. Like, maybe he spent so much time and the warfare was so brutal with these goblinoid factions that he's pretty much a complete racist towards goblins, even if there happened to be a goblin who was, of a goodly nature, or they needed the help of this creature. Reinhardt, if he were to take this flaw, maybe wants any excuse to harm or otherwise make discomfort the life of this goblin that happens to be around him. So there you go. You just made a versatile character in no time. In fact, when you get a handle on this, you'll be able to make a character quicker than I could have possibly explained it to you. So don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe. If you have any other questions as a new player, feel free to put them in the comments below. The fantastic Nerdarchy community, I'm sure we'll be happy to give you some feedback and some ideas of how you can solve that problem or find the answer to your question. So until next time, stay nerdy.